My name is David Crow, and I'm one of the pastors here at Grace Bible Church in Fairburn, and also on the web at gracebible.faith. That is gracebible.faith. And here at Grace Bible Church, we're working our way through the book of James, and our pace in James has remained steady these last few weeks, covering a whole text in a singular message, and thereby bringing us ever closer to the final portions of the letter. And as we've come closer to the end of the book, it has become increasingly clear to me that James had a view to the end of his letter too, as he is driving his aim to a proper conclusion. And I suppose that's not especially unique, but it does seem to have an even more clear intentionality to it for me in this particular letter. A letter that so many have viewed as lacking structure or singular purpose. So with James coming to a conclusion, I see his final development of his structured aim, namely that of the believer being made perfect, complete, and lacking in nothing as they walk in the wisdom from above. A path that is filled with trials through which we are to faithfully and patiently persevere. Now, one of the plainest demonstrations of immediate continuity within a letter is observed with an author's use of therefore, just as we have again seen James employ in the opening of our passage from this last week. He is directing our attention to what immediately preceded, which itself was tied to its preceding passage too. So in this case, James was keeping a measure of attention on his assurance that the unrighteous wealthy will know a sure judgment, a judgment for which they will answer for their abuse of the righteous, a judgment that is intimately associated with the return of Christ, which is where he is directing our attention now. And with the coming of the Lord, James reminds us that this work of being conformed to Christ will come to its fitting conclusion, and with this also the conclusion of our need for patient perseverance. Now, the passage plainly focuses on being patient, expressing this by a command and example some 4 times. However, the transition to perseverance at the end is quite telling, as there's no defined break from patience before an extolling of the blessed condition of perseverance. James writes, "Therefore be patient, brothers, until the coming of the Lord. Behold, the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the soil, being patient about it, until it receives the early and late rains. You too be patient, strengthen your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand. Do not groan, brothers, against one another, so that you yourselves may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing right at the door. As an example, brothers, of suffering and patience, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. Behold, we count those blessed who persevere. You have heard of the perseverance of Job and have seen the outcome of the Lord's dealings, that the Lord is full of compassion and is merciful." That was James 5, 7 through 11. Now, some view these 2 important elements of our passage, patience and perseverance, as categorically distinct. They conclude that patience is applied toward people and perseverance towards circumstances. And there are some reasonable arguments for this. But to apply such a distinction in James's use of these 2 elements would be parsing the matter too finely. Rather, it appears that he is seeing the 2 in tandem with one another and is expecting his readers to cultivate a patient perseverance. A perseverance that is confident both in the Lord and his means of accomplishing his works, thereby fostering patience amidst testing and trials. Now, here it is helpful to remember that this patient perseverance was framed with a view to the coming of the Lord, or what is commonly referred to by the simple term parousia, a term that expresses the coming of someone. But because of its intimate association with the beloved doctrine of Christ's return, it has become synonymous with his coming in judgment and glory. And James roots this passage in view of both aspects of Christ's coming, judgment and glory. However, whereas we rightfully view judgment with a view to the prior passage, where we are assured of the judgment of the wicked, there is another judgment that must be remembered too, namely the believers standing before Christ and having their works evaluated. Such is the judgment that James gently reminds us of when speaking of the susceptibility we have toward lacking patience, notably lacking patience toward one another. This offense was expressed as groaning, and it's not befitting a patient perseverance. Further, it is an offense that the judge who is standing right at the door will call us to account for too. James wants and expects better of us. Finally, with his drawing on the example of Job's perseverance, we have a reminder of the character of God, that it is full of compassion and is merciful, characteristics expressed so clearly in the outcome of Job. And with this, we rightfully have our attention drawn to the final chapter of Job, where we read of the abundant restoration he experienced in the relation to his family and possessions. However, I think we should also consider that James may well have had even more in view. I'm persuaded that James would also have us remember the maturing of Job's character and theology through the whole experience, notably when personally engaged by Yahweh. Job's conclusion was more than restored family and wealth. It was also that he was made more perfect, more complete, and lacking in nothing. Now, for access to the full message that we've reviewed today, you can go to our website at gracebible.faith. That's gracebible.faith. And here you can access all of our messages in James, as well as our other studies in both video and audio formats, which are also available on YouTube and Spotify, both linked through the website. Now, we hope that our study in James has been and will continue to be a blessing to you as we also pursue his aim of being made perfect, complete, and lacking in nothing as we walk in the wisdom from above. All right, grace and peace to you all.